Not
community,
allowing
which
them in
are
the
already
women's
going through
prisons would help.
significant mental... Well, you're not letting me speak. You're not letting me speak at all.
I think the government in the UK did the right thing blocking this law. It's a law that shouldn't be in place in Scotland, let alone have any impact over the border into England and Wales. This is about British equalities legislation. That is in the purview of the UK Westminster government, not of the Scottish government in Holyrood, in which case, why is this stoking a culture war when the government is simply just enacting the devolution settlement, which was already in place?
Well, let's be clear who we're talking about, first of all, Julia, and we're talking about a group of people that have to go through needless medical processes which induce a significant amount of emotional strain and mental turmoil in an era where we're looking after mental health.
I was going to say, are you talking about Scottish MPs or are you talking about trans people?
I'm talking about the trans community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to supplement that point, I think it's twofold. Well, first and foremost, I'm a sufferer of ME, which is an invisible disability, and I know a thing or two about mental toil and emotional disruption when it comes to things like misdiagnosis and unnecessary lengthy periods of time where you're trying to figure out what's wrong with you and you're having GPs telling you stop being ridiculous. It's probably in your own head.
Okay, let's not get signed on it. As you say, this is young people currently having to undergo, you say, needless medical processes. If someone says that they believe they are born in the wrong body, that is what used to be called, you have a medical diagnosis of something called gender dysphoria, because no one is born in the wrong body. You're born a man, you're born a woman. A tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of people are born non-binary. That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about trans. Someone believing they're born... It's a different thing.
Sorry to interrupt you, Julia, but it's interesting that you're citing biological facts from a widely discredited metaphysical view of the human body. We know that the human body isn't just our physical organs. We know that we have a complex relationship with our mental phenomena. You study philosophy. Think back to your metaphysics lessons when you were learning about this.
Innes, there is nothing controversial for 95% of people in this country, but I would think 99% if they really had to be pushed on it, about whether or not you're being male or female is a biological fact and is a physical fact. So people are born what they are and they remain that for their whole life. You can cut things off, you can do other things, you can take as many drugs as you want. You will remain biologically what you are from the day you were born. You're not assigned sex. Your sex is what you are born and what you are created as. Okay?
And as I said, you're citing biological facts based on a discredited...
It's not discredited, darling. It's biological truth.
Very complex body.
This is where we start from.
If we can't, physical organs.
If we can't even start from biological
conversation we're having just now is exchanging ideas. It's mental phenomena, and the relationship we have with our physical organs is complex. Okay. If you can't accept that, you're denying reality.
Yes, and I'm probably transphobic for it as well. I'm not denying reality. That's the reality.
What I said to you, but you're denying biological facts.
How you feel inside is completely different from the reality of your biological body and your chromosomes.
Well, how do you explain pain? How do you explain the sensory experience that we experience with pain, which at times falsely experiences what's wrong with our body?
Innes, we've got 3 minutes left. Can we talk about the actual subject at hand? Okay. You say these are
but this is the crux.
Innes, it's not the crux of it. Innes,
it is
Innes, it's not your podcast, darling. I'm asking you.
Reality.
I don't know why I even bother. You can't. I mean, let's deny the reality of 2 + 2 = 4 as well. I mean, we can argue about that, but it's a waste of everyone's time.
You're citing a widely discredited medical view of the human body.
It's not discredited. Needless medical I'm still trying to ask the second question. Needless medical processes, you say. They're not needless. Someone who's got gender dysphoria needs to be given a lot of psychological help. I don't believe that certainly 16-year-olds should be given any sort of medical treatment because we know how damaging that can be, ability to decide to be infertile for the rest of your life. I think is something that a 16-year-old is not equipped to do. But when the Scottish Government doesn't have these powers, equalities legislation is reserved for the Westminster Government. The Westminster Government is entitled to slap that down, and when that impacts on women and girls in particular, the risk to them in their safe spaces, they're even more entitled to slap it down, aren't they?
But the problem with that argument is you're pretending that these issues only exist in a world where the ability to self-ID is eased, but it's not. We still have these issues. Why are we having this conversation? Why aren't we having the conversation that we're feared that a male pervert might be waiting there in the toilet? Why are we...
It's actually happened, that's why.
But
it's actually happening. It's happening in prisons, it's happening in women's safe spaces every day.
Look at Ireland, who have had the self-ID bill for 7 years. They've never had to revoke someone's gender certificate because it's never happened. The evidence is
happening
against you.
right now. There have been court cases about it. There are ongoing cases right now going through the courts where this has happened. You can't deny that reality, or you're denying every reality.
Well, of course it's going through the course because prisons take each case by case.
No, there've been convictions.
Why would I deny that?
People, male sexual predators behind bars in male prisons have self-identified as women, got themselves transferred to women's prisons and have sexually assaulted women. That's a fact.
And there's nothing to suggest that we can't clamp down on it, but to further alienate a community
not allowing them in the
already
women's
going through
prisons would help.
significant mental. Well, you're not letting me speak. You're not letting me speak at all. To impose significant mental turmoil and emotional strain on an already alienated community for administrative issues is a ludicrous argument, Julia.
Why does that impose extra strain on people having to live a life
because
2-year wait? What's wrong with that?
I'm citing from experience that if you go for years of misdiagnosis and GPs telling there's nothing wrong with you,
but that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people having to live as the opposite gender for a bit to know that's something they're really sure about doing because it's such a major change.
So why not shorten it to 6 months? Why extend that length of time to 2 years? Why put that person under the discomfort of their own body for that length of time? Why do that?
Ines, I wish I'd love to answer that. I wish I could. I can't. We're out of time.